Hello again. Now, trade union Numsa has had to postpone its 11th National Congress, which was set to begin today. The postponement came after a ruling by the Labour Court, which declared the suspension of its second Deputy President, Ruth Ntlokose, and others as invalid, unconstitutional and unenforceable by law. Disgruntled members say attempts to convene the Congress will be challenged. Well, for more on this and just to look at the state of this chaos that's facing Numsa, I'm joined now by Labour expert Terry Bell. Terry, good afternoon, sir. Thank you for your time. I read your opinion piece in the City Press yesterday, Numsa's Week of Reckoning. Well, here we are. The Congress has not begun because of this interdict by the court on Friday, but already millions of rands have been paid out to hotels, for example, for accommodation and all sorts of other logistical support. Is this a mess?
It's a terrible mess. It's very, very sad, but also very deeply worrying. I mean, the point was that the interdict came down from the Labour Court on Friday. Now, what should have happened then, I think, in order to at least save some of the money, because there would have been deposits paid, and let's face it, the Cape Town International Convention Centre is not exactly the cheapest venue in the country by a very long way. And if you're talking about 1,800, 2,000 delegates, you're talking about R1 million a day just for the venue itself. And what actually happened was that on Saturday, I believe, some of the buses from KZN started leaving. And I believe yesterday some of the delegates from the Eastern Cape, where there's a big dispute at the moment about who is a delegate and who isn't, flew down yesterday. So I don't know. They cannot have it. It would be contempt of court to stage a Congress at this stage. And I believe that I was there this morning, and I came away from it a couple of hours ago, when there were delegates outside, officials inside, nobody saying anything, lots of huddled meetings with the police and security, etc. It's a total shambles. And as I say, it has implications right across the board. I mean,
yes. Before we talk about the implications, which you allude to in your column in the City Press yesterday, Inside Labour, you were there just a couple of hours ago. There were members of delegates huddled outside and officials meeting inside. Were you able, Terry, and can you share with our viewers this hour, what is the sense that you were getting? Is it a sense of frustration? It cannot go ahead because they need to be breaking the law?
It definitely can't go ahead. And then, of course, this morning, delivered to the Central Committee and the national office bearers, was a letter from the Eastern Cape regional office bearers, among them suspended people, who were pointing out that it would be contempt of court to go ahead, and that if they decided to have what has now been called a special Central Committee meeting instead with delegates there, that would also be illegal and a breach of the Constitution and would result in further legal action. And in fact, the Eastern Cape now are calling for the national office bearers who were responsible for not notifying everyone to be personally responsible for the debts incurred or for the expenses incurred in accommodation, travel, etc.
So where are we at now? Is this chaos? You said in your article, this is Numsa's Week of Reckoning, and you said today may trigger one of the most tumultuous periods in modern South African trade union history. Why?
Well, because Numsa is the largest individual union in the country. It also has members in very vital areas of the economy. And if that is torn asunder, if it is fragmented, if there's internal fighting and squabbling, it's going to have a profound effect on the places where people work. It's going to have a profound effect right throughout the labour industry, but also on the economy. So it's a very, very worrying feature. And I was just hoping that if they did manage somehow to have some sort of gathering to discuss things openly, the argument here comes back, as I mentioned in the article as well, to money, to investment companies and who's got the money and how the money was used, etc., and calls for lifestyle audits of leadership, etc. So it's all a great mess that needs to be clarified, it needs to be cleared up for the sake not just of the labor movement, the trade unions, but for the economy itself and for South Africa socially. Because the unions, all those workers, are part and parcel of communities. So it has to be clarified, it has to be cleared up. How it will be done, I don't know. It's going to take time, it's going to be painful. And as I say, it's very sad and very deeply worrying.
Part of what's at the center of the disputes within Numsa is around the leadership of Irvin Jim and his executive team. Do you think this will be easy to resolve? I mean, he's been accused of having a Stalinist approach to leadership.
Well, yes, he has for a long, long time. And the fact is, you see, that Numsa, for example, they say, well, they helped to create the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party. But in fact, on the posters in 2009 during the election was Irvin Jim's head, his photograph. So it was a Numsa party. But Numsa had over 300,000 members, but only just over 24,000 people actually voted for the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party. But Irvin Jim has always put himself forward very much as the leader. And there's talk, if you read their, a lot of their material, it's really old-fashioned rhetoric about vanguard parties and the need to lead the working class, very much a top-down sort of leadership thing. At the same time, it's confused with the investment companies and with the amount of money that's been sloshing around. For example, in 2018, there was Deloitte, I think it was, the accounting company, did a survey and discovered that 20 million rand in sponsorships had been handed out by Numsa. Now, that's an awful lot of money when you've got a lot of comrades within Numsa who are short of money, a lot of people who are now unemployed, who were once within Numsa, they could have been helped with that. And that's one of the arguments that you hear among the people who are dissident, who are opposed to the sort of leadership. They've also called for the fact of lifestyle audits for leaders. They don't like the idea that the General Secretary drives in a chauffeur-driven Mercedes-Benz, that sort of thing. I mean, one can talk about whether it's right or wrong, but the point is a lot of the members don't like that.
Yeah, and a lot of the members can't even afford to buy cars at this stage. Very interesting dynamic. Finally, and if you may, Terry, very briefly, I've always struggled in my mind to understand the need for a trade union to have an investment company. Because when you have an investment company, you are now business. You are now practicing business. Because if you invest, you expect a return of investment. And now there are some examples you've used in your column, and you also pointed out about the Deloitte investigation in 2018 in terms of Numsa's investment company, in terms of one particular insurance company that you've mentioned in your opinion piece. Is it time for trade unions? And I'm talking all of them in South Africa, the big ones, have got some form of an investment arm, or is it just down to management or mismanagement? What do you think, Terry, very briefly?
I think trade unions should never be involved in investment companies of that kind whatsoever. For example, there have been investment companies such as Sakru, the garment industry, that went and invested in cut-price garment manufacture in Lesotho. So what it means is that one bunch of workers who happen to have a bit of money end up exploiting another bunch of workers in order to get more money into their funds. And once that sort of money starts sloshing around, and we're talking about millions and billions, there are always sticky fingers going into the till.
Okay, thank you very much, Terry Bell. He's, of course, a Labour expert. And if you didn't know, he's got a very, very informative weekly opinion column in the City Press, which I read yesterday. This is about Numsa, of course. As he said, why we should care about Numsa. It's South Africa's largest trade union with employees, or members rather, working in different sectors of our economy, like at Eskom in energy, like in engineering, in the car manufacturing business, like in the airways, days, as you've seen them sometimes, Numsa picketing outside SAA offices. So, and it's the biggest union. So what happens to them this week is going to be very interesting. They are now seized with a legal interdict. They cannot proceed with their multi-million rand 5-day Congress, which was supposed to open today in Cape Town's International Convention Centre.